What's up, guys? Welcome back to Total Match, where we talk about the total relationship experience. Today's topic is going to be on finance. Now, I know that's a little bit different from the topics that we normally talk about, but I want you guys to kind of keep in your mind two schools of thought. The first school of thought is if you are in a relationship or divorced, if you're in a relationship or married, finances is one of the main reasons why people get divorced. And if you're single, really for guys anyway, that's the main reason why you don't get chosen. That's the first school of thought. The second school of thought is I'm sure everyone is aware that the cost of living is doing this, and the amount of money that people are making is doing this. And everybody is aware interest rates are up, the price of groceries are up, daycare is $500 a day. You got student loan payments you need to pay for because Uncle Joe hasn't held up his end of the bargain just yet. All of these different subscriptions, Netflix raising their prices every month, Hulu, and all you guys out there with OnlyFans accounts. Look, I'm not knocking anybody, but the cost of living is up. And the best way to combat that is by having an additional stream of income. And there are a lot of different ways you can make money. There are a lot of different avenues you can take. And as long as you're not hurting anyone or taking from anyone, I could really care less what you're doing. But there are three pillars that have stood the test of time when it comes to finances. There's oil, the stock market, and real estate. And today we're going to be talking about real estate. And the guy that I brought up here with you guys is a good buddy of mine. He decided to leave us and move down to Florida. We're over here in the beautiful state of Louisiana. He decided to leave us and go down to Florida. But good guy. If you look up what is a real estate investor on Google, he's probably going to be, if not the first, probably the second picture that pops up. So I'm not going to ruin or mess up any of his story. I'll let him share that with you guys. But if you're into real estate investing, or if you're looking to try to figure out how to make a little bit more income on the side, or just get your feet wet with the topic and the area of real estate, this is definitely a podcast that you're going to want to listen to. So if you don't want to keep bumping your head trying to figure this thing out on your own, without further ado, let me bring up my guy, Lee. Give me 1 second. How's it going?
Man, good. I don't know. I'm going to try to live up to these expectations. Apparently, you get in the
Man,
audience.
look, you are the standard, man. How's everything going in there in Florida?
It's sunny, babe. I got to say, I don't know how I can move to Florida, spend 2 years, and get more pale, but I'm accomplishing that.
I got you. How's the wife?
Man, she's good. So she's enjoying that Florida life, and she was actually at the beach one day last week, and that was going back to it. That was always just a goal of ours to get
Mm-hmm.
to the beach and we finally 2 years ago were able to make that happen where we were 15 minutes away, and you know what, love it. So
I love it, man. I love it.
obviously you can tell I don't go as much as she does. She's got the
Mm-hmm.
better.
Well, man, I know that you told me earlier that family was in town, so I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I know it's 8:30 there. So what the plan is like I told you earlier, the floor is yours. This is your show. I'm gonna ask you a few questions. Let everyone know your origin story, how you got started, a little bit about who you are and everything else like that. And as the comments start to roll in, we'll answer those comments. I'll find periodic places to stop and we can kind of answer some of those comments. Either you can answer it, I can answer it. We both chime in, kind of give our own. You taught me a little bit before you left me up here to dry, but we can tag team the questions or whatnot, and we'll just go from there. So just so we can get the ball rolling, who is Lee?
It depends on the day that you ask. So a lot of it, we'll just kind of start back with, since this is about marriage and relationships, we'll start back with before I met my
Mm-hmm.
wife. I was driving a 2000 Dodge Stratus. I mean, it was hunter green with the front bumper hanging off. I had a 450 credit score, and
Mm.
I was working the casino on graveyard shift. So when you had mentioned, fellas, why are you getting overlooked, because you're, crap with money. I was sitting here smiling. I'm like, man, he's telling the truth. Because I was just sitting here like, man, I did not have anything to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And, going back to it, there was a number of pivotal conversations with my wife. But when we were dating, she told me at one point, she said, look, if we're going to get serious about us, you got to get serious about yourself.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, because, you want to talk origin, we'll go all the way back. I
Let's
was
do it.
born to a family that wasn't prominent, financially. We didn't understand finances, economics. I learned more about how to move checks around than I did about saving, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there were times we didn't have electricity. It was, I mean, I'm saying that to illustrate that I wasn't from a prominent family.
Mm-hmm.
Still thankful for what I did have. And, I'm not out here to sit here and say, oh, poor me. I just want to give you context and flavor for where I was.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say, then we meet, we start dating. My car goes out. Dude, she actually co-signed for me. Her mom was a banker and drilled financial literacy into her head her whole life.
Mm.
So that was just polar opposites, that came together. And fast forward, we start dating. She sees enough in me to let me stay around. Then we get married. She sees enough in me to let me stay around.
Mm-hmm.
And now we celebrated back in November 13 years of marriage.
Oh,
And
congrats.
thank you. I'm not going to say it's been like just absolutely without difficulty. As a matter of
Mm-hmm.
fact, she still tells me, she'll look me in the eye and say, I love you. But you make me want to catch a case sometimes. And, it is what it is.
Right.
I love her honesty for it.
Mm-hmm.
But we, after my mom passed away in 2014 and 2015, we started investing in real estate, which is kind of guiding us to where we're at today, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be 9 years come April. That'll
Oh,
be
wow.
9 years that we've been investing. And we started with $6,000 and a net worth of $138,000, which was mostly her 401k and a
Mm.
little bit of equity in the house that she bought. I say she because I couldn't get on the note.
So you started with $6,000 and you guys had a net worth of $138,000. So
Majority of her retirement. Yeah.
you didn't start out with $100,000 of liquid cash to do all of this. You started out with $6,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to reiterate that because a lot of
Yeah.
people get in their heads that they need the moon and the stars to get into real estate.
Nope. I'm gonna before we end this call tonight, I'm gonna show you how to do it with 5. So if you tell me you ain't
No,
got $5, you a
there
lie.
we go.
So
All right. So, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to reiterate that. So you said you guys started with $6,000 and $138,000 net worth.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That was just our first personal financial statement that we submitted to the bank. And it was about 2 months ago. My wife brought it to me and she showed it to me because it still had Barksdale Federal Credit Union on the letterhead and had
Mm-hmm.
our little scribbles and everything else. But yeah, the majority of it was her 401k from her job that she had back
Mm-hmm.
then.
So from there, the $6,000, what did you do with that?
So to say that we ran it up is an understatement. We've been very blessed. Now it's taken a
Mm-hmm.
lot of hard work, and well, Josh, last time you saw me, I didn't have quite as much gray as I do now, right? So
Yeah.
there's been a price, right? But like I tell people, you got to have money, you got to have sweat equity, one of the two in this game, and
Mm-hmm.
I put in sweat, So fast forward, I've done since 2015. I'm over 500 transactions in as a realtor and investor, and my private money lending business.
Mm.
So, you built some experience, done some deals. We've negotiated a lot of high equity deals. And it's just, I'll go ahead and tell you. So, right now we've got 44, 45 properties. We
Okay.
just completed an owner finance deal for a guy that was renting from us. So, I still haven't went and looked at our exact count, but we're over 40 properties. We own 11 of them outright.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we flip houses, do coaching, consulting on the side. I'll do a couple seminars a year, private money lending, on a brokerage. So it's just let me say as succinctly as I can. Real estate's been good to us, and
Mm-hmm.
like you said earlier, I don't care what you go out there and do, but your 9 to 5 these days don't cut it. You've got to find something
Absolutely.
else to.
Absolutely. So, Those 44 doors up, is it 44 doors or 44? Are they all single family homes?
No, it's 44 doors. So it's a mix of duplexes, fall 5 unit, and then mostly single families.
Okay. Um, are they all in Florida or do you have them spaced out across the US? I hope you,
No,
if you
it's
got
actually
44 in
concentrated
Florida,
back in Louisiana. Yeah.
the majority.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all of them right now, even our Airbnbs right there in Shreveport, Bossier.
Okay.
It's been a great market to us. And I come down here to Florida thinking that I'm going to rinse and repeat. No, those prices and rental income, rent ratios to sell price, they don't line up for what I do.
Right. A little bit different out there in Florida. So for the people that are in here right now, can y'all do me a favor? Can y'all type Lee in the chat? Shout Lee out real quick because he's about to give us some very good information. So I'm from the South. We do things a little bit different down here. My grandma used to say you don't walk in someone's house and not say hello to them. So if y'all are watching right now, if y'all can hear my voice, type Lee in the chat if you do not mind. All right. So what are some of your rules for investing?
Number one, stick to the numbers. You have to stick to your numbers. If you establish where your buy box is, don't go
Mhm,
outside of it. Just be disciplined. Secondly, I would say that a big part of that is, going out there and really giving yourself enough room to maneuver.
mhm.
And I say that because starting out with $6,000, that was reckless. It really was. That being said, I didn't have anything to begin with, so it's not like I really had much to lose. So hitting the
Mhm.
reset button at that point wouldn't have been detrimental. But I would, yeah, I would have to say that that's the biggest part.
Okay. I've heard before that a lot of investors, I don't say a lot of investors, but everyone has their different flavors. Some people say they don't buy anything that doesn't have a garage, or they don't buy pier and beam, or they wouldn't buy it if they wouldn't live in it. Do you have any of those?
Yeah. So I don't buy in war zones, right? So
Okay.
commonly referred to as D class properties.
Hmm.
And mainly it's just because a lot of people they try to sell this dream that you can buy cheap houses and put some lipstick on it and then you can rent it for thousands of dollars a month.
Hmm.
Look, if it was that easy, don't you think that all the prices would be up there in those
Right.
houses, right?
Hmm.
It's only whenever you get out there and you realize that not only is it that the tenant profile, they turn over a lot more frequently,
Hmm.
but also you get contractors that don't want to work out there, because they feel like their tools are going to go missing or anything else. So they stay out of high crime areas. And another thing that I've learned over the years, Joshua, is I don't innovate. There's a lot of money to be made just by drafting behind those
Hmm.
people doing those things. So
Hmm.
I do that. I would say that those are really my main things.
Okay. Um, how important would you say credit is? I know that sounds like a strange question, but you said you started with a four what?
450 credit score. Yeah.
450 credit score. So how important is credit to just getting started, not scaling, but just getting started?
So it really depends on what your goals are.
Hmm.
To get started, you can go out here and you can put in time and you can negotiate owner finance deals and you can find those things. But whenever I was doing magic card tricks, things like that, right? So a guy
Hmm.
told me one time, he said, look, you can know 100 tricks and one presentation, and you only know one trick. But if you know 100 presentations and one trick, you know 100 tricks.
Hmm.
So that being said, that you have to have tools in the toolbox, right?
Hmm.
And good credit, allows more tools to be in that box. So you've got more things at your disposal whenever you're going out there trying to create the deals.
Hmm.
Is it just an absolute must-have? No. You can go out there and you can put some elbow grease in on the deals. You can negotiate novations, sweat equity, everything else to
Hmm.
play it up. But if you really want that scalability, even then with DSCR lenders, your debt service coverage ratio lenders, they're going to look at certain aspects. And again, if you've got a 400 credit score, you're not going to get the same rate that somebody with an 800 credit score.
So for everybody watching right now, if what he's saying is confusing to you, he is a coach and a consultant also. So once we get done with all of this, he's going to give you guys some information on how to reach out to him because I know a lot of this might sound like Spanish to you guys, but he's the guy to talk to about that. So,
And respectfully,
but
I'll tell you all watching this right now, you if you starting out, just go and watch my free content that I put
mm,
out. Start there because I bill out at $300 an hour, and it's going to be a waste of your money if you contact me and ask me to
mhm,
explain to you what acronyms are. No, I
mhm.
got a free copy of my book. Go get that. It'll give you a lot to get started.
Right. So for the people that are watching right now, y'all heard that $300 an hour. So if y'all want to try to squeeze in some free questions while we got them up here, I would definitely comment those. But we're just gonna keep rocking and rolling. So you mentioned something earlier, and I have my own personal opinion on this, but I want you to address it. A lot of people think that whenever they get a rental property, they need to be making five, six, seven, $800 off of it, or it's not a good deal. So, in your personal opinion, I know you said follow or look at the numbers. What would be a good investment if you're not necessarily making a crazy amount of money off top?
There's a number of things to kind of factor in. Number one, the market. Are you in
Hmm.
an appreciation play market to where classically you're seeing 7 or above national average appreciation? If so,
Hmm.
your strategy is going to change, right? Also, do you have money to leave in the deals? So, can you go out there and buy down your leverage?
Hmm.
Are you, say, if you're putting 40 to 60% down on every deal and you're only leveraging 40%? Well, there's a different strategy. For what my wife and I do, the way that we started with 6,000, we kind of ran that up, was we go out, we find and focus on cash flow. As a matter of fact, every property that we've bought, we haven't anticipated any appreciation in. Anything that we get, and you're from Louisiana, so you get this, we consider land yap. It's just a little something extra.
Hmm.
We don't expect that to really come back to play for us. So
Hmm.
what we do is we look for the amortization, paying down the debt, some PCF, some positive cash flow, and that's after we allocate for our expenses, which means the debt service, the property taxes, the insurance, maintenance, vacancy, and management.
Hmm.
And even if you're going to self manage, little quick interjection for you, still calculate and hold back that 10% that you would give a manager because when the day comes and you might have bigger projects on your plate or you might just get tired of managing, you
Hmm.
want to turn that over to somebody else.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and tell you right now, back in December, my business partner and I that we own Titan together, uh, he knew I'd been having trouble trying to manage employees from 1,100 miles away. I
Hmm.
was coming to Shreveport like every 2 months, just to go and check on properties. And I'm in the process time of launching a fund and my initial raise targeting $10 million. So I started talking to him and I was venting my frustration and said, look, man, this is just taking up too much of my time. It's not conducive. I have to free up some bandwidth here.
Hmm.
And we talked about it, negotiated, and I turned over my property management to him because I'm sure you've seen this illustration before. If you're sitting there and you're holding something in your hand so tight,
Hmm.
but then these other opportunities are just coming all around you, you can't take them because you're holding on to this so tight.
Right.
So by letting go of something that necessarily wasn't serving me, it wasn't growing for me, that allowed me to now go out here and I've been to conferences since then and I've done a number of other things to grow that network so that I can do that capital raise.
Hmm. So this is for beginners. And one of the things that I know as it pertains to beginners is they kind of get caught up in the there's a term for it, the creative distractions. Not necessarily being a distraction, but I want to make sure I got my website and I want to make sure I got my business cards and my social media and I get an LLC and got to do this and all these other accounts and everything else like that. Can you speak on that for a second? When you first got started with this, what all did you have in place before you decided to go into your first investment?
So I had completed a YouTube course on wholesaling, and it
Bigger
took me
pockets.
about 3 months. No, so it was
Hmm.
Phil Butiofsky on YouTube. So yeah, Freedom Mentor,
Hmm.
and he had this free course, and he's probably retweaked it since then. But it was
Hmm.
fantastic. It wasn't necessarily really diving into the numbers, but the concepts, and then encouraging you to go out and meet and network with other investors. So I had that, and really that was it. So I remember the evening that happened. I closed my laptop, and I felt like, all right. So I looked at my wife and said, I want to take $1,000 and go out and buy some signs that we buy houses, and I want to wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when she looked at me. She's like, well, let's just go to the bank and see if they'll finance us. Over the years, again, she had worked with me to pay off some of the debt, get my credit back up. And oddly enough, I was in a financeable range. I think I was at like 630 and they wanted a 620. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's not that I was, on top of the mountain or anything like that, but, I was good enough to be financed. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of beginners need to understand you're good enough to get started, and having the website doesn't matter. We often distract ourselves with forms of just these mental blocks,
Mm-hmm.
and we use that to justify it. And if I'm being completely honest, I've been fighting with that for about a month now, myself, because now it is put up or shut up time for my fun. And I'm stepping into a realm to where I'm a guy that barely graduated high school. I had some college where I took all electives, bowling, photography, all the fun stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have that, but I'm over here and I'm bumping heads against people that Ivy League education.
Right.
One guy I met 2 weeks ago, he went to what is the military school, West Point. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, what? So it was just this imposter syndrome, but the same guy pulled me away from it as well. And he's telling me the same thing that I've told people and that I just needed to hear myself. You're good enough to get started.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that it takes. Go out there, make a mess, and then get the people around you to help you fix it. Right. Just like say, for example, somebody calls you and says, hey, Joshua, I'm looking to get out here and I want to get started with investing. All right, you are going to look at them and say, all right, well, what kind of properties you want?
Mm-hmm.
How do I make this happen for you? And then you're going to put them up. You're going to customize an email campaign based on
Mm-hmm.
their needs, right? So that's good enough to get started. They don't have to have a website. They don't have to have a fancy business card. They don't have to have a logo design. And if you want it, go to Canva and get one for
Right.
free. Or go to Fiverr and get one for
Fiverr.
30.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of the times people put these smoke screens up because they can then say, well, I wasn't ready because of this.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look in the mirror and say, yeah, okay, it's on me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
That's when people really kind of find where their true character lies. And
Right.
has it been all huff and puff at this point, or are you a person of substance? Have you had the catalyst, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit more. That will make you get off your tail. I'm going to try not to cuss, but I get a
Oh,
little
go
carried
for it.
away.
Hey, go for it.
Okay, well, careful. If I go full sin, we just going to get YouTube banned. So, all that to say, you really have to just call yourself out on the carpet sometimes and just say,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? I've identified that I'm wasting my time on this. And a big thing about it, Joshua, is, the average lifespan is what, 77? So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you start looking at it, a lot of people, they might not know it, but these are the good days. You have to get out there and make them
Right.
while you can. You can't regret the time that you passed. And you can't be anxious about the time that's coming. All you have
Mm-hmm.
is right here. And if you don't make this count, you'll have tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But they will be the past.
Right.
So that's a chance you'll never have again.
Right.
So on that long-winded rant, I'm going to take another sip of water and let you ask the next question.
Oh,
Hope
go
I
for it. Go for it. And I try to tell people this all the time. The best way to give yourself more time and to streamline your success is to shorten that time between thinking and doing.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah.
shorten that
Mel
time
Robbins,
frame
the five
between
second rule.
what's that?
Mel Robbins, the 5 second rule.
5 second rule. Shorten that time between thinking and doing will probably change so many people's lives to like, this is what I said I needed to do. And I'm going to procrastinate. I need to straighten my room up and I need to make the bed. And then I got to go over here and do this and run these errands. And now you feel like you did something. And that is your reasoning for not going towards that goal.
Yeah.
So I try to tell people that all the time. Like once you think about it, just start trying to figure out how you need to get to how you can get to it. So I know we talked a lot about finances. My next question for you is a little bit more on the entertainment side. What is your worst and what was your best investment? And what did the finances look like as far as down payments and the money that you had to move around for those?
Oh man, I've got to say The worst investment was, I'm trying to not get too existential about it. I would say the worst investment was neglecting my health. That
Oh,
was, yeah. I know that's probably not what you wanted to hear. Uh,
it's
but
your
my
show.
worst, we do have, I mean, everybody, if you do enough deals, you're going to buy a dog every now and then, right?
Hmm.
So we had one that we bought for 35 and it just didn't, it didn't work out. Right now we're about maybe 100 in it. But all that to say, we're lucky in the sense that we've had so many successful deals that it gave us the cushion to buy
Hmm.
one bad deal and it still hasn't impacted us. So I'm thankful for that.
Hmm.
But I would say the worst thing was neglecting my health as I built the business. And it
Okay.
was more so, working 16-hour days, 18-hour days to really break free from my W 2 and go full time real estate.
Hmm.
That not only was an expense to my health, where I was just exhausted. And, I gained so much weight at that point. At one point, I was up to like 338, man. And I
Oh
think that
wow.
that's probably whenever we kind of ran in. And
Yeah.
yeah, so now I don't care you like me or not, but I'm down under 260. So, it's improving. It's trending in the right direction.
Congrats on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Florida's been
Hmm.
good to me in that sense.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the lack of Louisiana food. But anyway, um, we go back and it also damaged my relationship with my wife. And so
Mm.
that was a horrible investment, because of the fact that I was dragging her along and she didn't see the same vision that I had.
Hmm.
And my wife is the type that she has to understand it. Once she understands it and she's on board for a reason of doing something,
Hmm.
cool, let's go. But
You gave her
there
that
was
security.
one, yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And there was that one night I was out after working all day in the sales job. I was out there showing houses, waiting for a client to come up, and I'd grab supper out of a convenience store hot box, So sitting
Mm.
there eating like this stale, crusty burrito, and I'm on the phone with my wife, and she's like, I just feel like, I feel like we're roommates. And man, you talk about hit you like a ton of bricks
Yes,
because
sir. Yes, sir.
she's the only one that believed in me, and gave me
Hmm.
that drive, that, hell, I could be something more than what I've been told I could be my whole life. So for this
Hmm.
woman to say that to me, it's like, damn. And my initial emotional response was just, I'm doing this for you. What are you, what are you
Right.
talking about? But that didn't matter to her. Is what I had to finally realize. Unless we could strike a balance,
Hmm.
it's great to have all these things and to be able to go and take trips. But if the person you're taking the trips with isn't there because they divorced you, what's the
Right.
point, right? So that would probably be, some of the worst investments I've made, and then being able to turn that around, um, was some of the best investments to really kind of correct that and say, I need to be more present. I need to do
Hmm.
these. Um, and all that to say, in 13 years, we have seen some ups and downs. She
Hmm.
has been with me at some of my finest moments, and she's been there at my lowest. When my mom passed away, it was tough. Whenever she was going through her battle with cancer, she saw me break down time and time again, and she stayed. So all that to say, you know, I realized that I really had to invest in that because that's what counted.
Hmm.
The sticks, the bricks, I don't give a shit. And you'll probably ask me later because it's not uncommon to be asked, what would you do if you started over? Um,
That was my next question.
yeah, without her, it doesn't matter. I mean, I
Hmm.
can go back out and I can rebuild. And so much to the point that I've told her throughout the years that, look, if it doesn't work out, if you get tired of it and you tell me that you're done, take it all. I'll rebuild, I'll restart. It's fine because I want her to have security above
Right.
all else. And there was even a time, it was a few years ago. Now she's starting to get as many properties as we have, but started an LLC for her so that she can
Hmm.
go out, she can buy properties, and she can finance them in her name under her debt, everything else, so that if something were to happen with me or she got tired of me, she could not ever fear leaving the relationship for the fear of not having security. I
Right.
want you to be completely independent because if the time comes that you don't want me, I don't want that to be the reason why you stay. You know,
Hmm.
so that's that's again what I would do if I started all over. I go ahead and jump that question if you want me to.
Oh, go. So I want you to answer that question, but I want you to, if you can, separate, because I know you said earlier you're going to show everybody how they can make what they need to make happen with $5,000. So what would Lee do with his $6,000, his lifestyle, his goals, and everything else, starting all the way from scratch, $6,000, $138,000 net worth? What would you do differently? Not what you would do with that $5,000.
So I was actually going to tell the audience how to do it with $5. So
$5. Oh, $5.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll do that too. But
Okay.
what would I do if I started over? I've got to say that I've been extremely blessed, and if I was able to start over with the knowledge of today, I would probably house hack, right? So any couples out there that are trying to get started and you don't really, maybe you're renting, and you're saving up for that down payment, but you don't know what to do with it. Buy a
Hmm.
1 to 4 multifamily, which means a duplex, triplex, or quadplex. You can get all that financed through VA, through FHA. You can go to conventional, talk to your loan officers and your realtors about those things. But I would house hack. I would buy at least a duplex, and I would have somebody on the other side pay my mortgage note, and then I'm going to
Hmm.
pay down extra, and I'm going to bank that money. It takes
And one
discipline.
And one thing, just for the people listening right now, the reason that he said he would do a duplex, a triplex, or a quad is because anything above that would be looked at as commercial, correct? So anything below
Correct.
4 doors is looked at as a single family home. So if you buy a quad, you can live in one, and if you can rent the other 3 rooms out, that is essentially you having 3 investment properties if you can rent all of those out. So that's why he's saying he would go up to a quad. But I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that they clear it up.
No, by all means,
Hmm.
man. I'll start rambling, so
Hmm. Oh, no, no,
jump
no, you
in.
good.
Jump in. But yeah, so I would house hack. I would go out. I would build my network, right? Because I've come to find over the years, and Brad Lee says this, so it's not me. It's not an original thought. The more hands you shake, the more money you make.
Hmm.
And it's so true. Get out there, come from contribution to people, try to be of value, and then you tap into it, right? So as you're helping people, I would say look for those opportunities to grow with others. And
Hmm.
see where can you provide the value. I've had people come to me before saying, "Hey, look, will you teach me?" And I'm like, "Absolutely. We can work together. This is what you're going to have to do." And very rarely do people do it, but there are
Right.
times, and there have been a few over the years that I've taught how to cold call, and they jump right past that fear, and they're jumping out there and they're doing the cold calls.
Hmm.
They set appointments, we do deals, and then we JV, we joint venture on the deals, and then we split the assignment. And I do the negotiation. They'll go out there and take the photos, the video. We negotiate, we contract it, we close it, and we dispo it. Dispo is disposition, which means assign your contract if you're wholesaling. By the way, I apologize for
Yeah.
using jargon.
That's what I was about to ask. So what you're saying is referring to wholesaling, correct?
Oh yeah, easiest way to get started.
Okay. So what wholesaling is, and I'm saying this to you as reiterating, but obviously, we know what that is. But wholesaling is there is person A who needs to sell their house, and there's person B who wants to buy a home, an investor usually. So the wholesaler is the person in the middle. The wholesaler in the middle knows person A and person B, but they don't know each other. So what the wholesaler does is they get person A under contract. Hey, I know someone that would be interested in purchasing this home. We can buy it cash. You give them the whole spiel, and you get the home under contract. So let's say if it is a $5,000 home, $10,000, whatever the case may be, you now have a contract for this house for $10,000.
Mhm.
And person B is looking to buy a home. So you take that contract to person B and you say, hey, I will sell you this contract for $15,000. And you have the numbers on what the person A's house would be worth after repair value. It would be worth $50,000 fixed up. You don't have any money. You didn't spend a single dime. You just got the contract. You went to person B and you sold the contract to person B.
A lot of money in being a connector.
And you didn't have a real estate license. You didn't have to use at most, if anything, $500.
Yeah.
If anything, a couple $100.
And I'll go ahead and share with you, Joshua, that last year my biggest assignment to date was $50,000 on a residential. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
In Florida?
uh, yeah. So I had a
Mm.
VA, right? So my VA cost me $6 an hour. I buy a list. They're calling, they're having it. And essentially, all that I pay them to do is to get on the phone and say, yes, are you interested in selling your house? And they'll say yes or no, right? I just need that filter because
Mhm.
at a certain point, and this is for the audience, to where when your value goes up, you have to decide your highest and best use of your time. And that means that, am I going to serve my best time? If I'm charging $300 an hour, would I go over here and mow my own lawn if somebody else will do it for 50? Great, let them
Right.
do it. And I'm going to go focus on doing some deals, generating income.
Mhm.
Same thing with that, right? So I leverage out where I can. The virtual assistant made the connection. I call the homeowner, couldn't talk, keeps putting me off, and then, well, you know me, I'm quick to just be like, look, whenever you get serious, you give me a call. I'm not going to keep chasing you
Mhm.
because again, I'm gonna go. Well, Kevin Gates says it, right? Go where you celebrate it, not where you tolerate it.
Right.
And I keep that same energy in my business. If we do in business, then great. If not, I wish you the best. Just do it over there. So he finally calls me back about a month later. And he was like, hey, look, I just had to sort some things out, get ready to move. I'm ready. Can you come out?
Mhm.
I go out there, look at his house, and I talk to him as I'm walking it. He's telling me that he wanted 330 for it. And I'm like, all right, well, I can give you 330 for it. Also, I'm a realtor. So just in the spirit of transparency, you give me 30 to 45 days, I can literally put $50,000 in your pocket and I'll just take a real estate commission. And he was like, no, I need to go ahead and sell. I don't want to talk about it, but I want to sell right now. And I went, all right, fair enough. Here's my offer. And he took it. He knew that I was going to assign it out to a partner. So
Mhm.
I was very transparent in the process because of the fact that I don't ever want somebody to come around and be like, oh, you did me wrong. No, we disclosed, we transferred. I was
Mhm.
very transparent in this. So this is where it's at.
Mhm.
So go send it out there to a guy. I actually had another person that offered me 390 for it, but a guy that I consider a friend that I've made down here, we were already in the talks at 380, and I honored that agreement with him. So I signed it out for 380, clipped 50,000 in my pocket for it, and kept it moving. But that being said, it was also the same month I did two deals back in Shreveport, Bossier, little $5,000 assignments. So that was a
Mhm.
60K month. And it's I'm wanting the audience to know if you're sitting there and you're kind of looking at me or looking at the screen with a little bit of in your face, fix it because I can't help if you don't like this. But if you want to do this, get out there and do it. I'm not the only one doing these kind of things.
Mhm.
So you can go out and study and put work in to make these things happen. Or you can sit back. Choice is yours. Your life is going to tick away regardless. It just
Right.
depends on what you want to do with it.
Mhm. So for the people that are listening right now, what would you say? So obviously there are people in every market that gives the market a bad name. Wholesaling at its core is finding a problem, finding a solution.
Yeah.
Now, the space in between that is the relationship that you make with the people that you're dealing with. So, for the people who know what wholesaling is that might be watching this and kind of, I know it might be new to a lot of people, but for the people who know what wholesaling is watching this video right now, what would you say for the people who have a bad taste in their mouth for wholesalers?
Just like anything else, you can't judge one experience and associate an entire industry with it.
Hmm.
You know, if I go out here and I buy a tire, from Michelin, and that tire for some reason has a flat the next day, am I going to go get mad at the other three, on my car for that
Hmm.
one flat? I can't do that, right? Not logically.
Right.
So what I would say is, let your vibe attract your tribe. And I say that a lot. Go
I
out
like
there
that.
and the bad actors will reveal themselves in time. You
Hmm.
just hope that you've got a spirit of discernment, a BS detector, whatever it is that you want to call that, so that you can identify who those people are and stay away from them. because I promise you, they will sort themselves out. I've been in this for 9 years now, and I've seen people come, I've seen people go, I've seen people of character stay and persevere. I've also seen some pretty crappy people stay and persevere
Mm-hmm.
too. I ain't saying that it always works out as it should, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying that identify and go to who you align with, and if it's a crappy person, just do it over there.
Right. I like that. What was it? Let your vibe
Yeah,
attract
let
your
your
tribe.
vibe attract the tribe. Yeah.
I like that. Also, I hope so. There are a good bit of people in here watching right now. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment while I got them up here, because outside after that, the price is going up. So if y'all have any questions, leave a comment. We can answer those. And also, if anyone wants to come up, leave a comment. I'll drop the link if someone wants to come up and ask a few questions live and everything else like that. But I hope y'all are taking notes on this. So I'm ready personally for the how to get started with $5 conversation.
Yeah.
So,
All right.
floor is yours.
Well, I was going to say, so this isn't my idea. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V,
Mhm.
if you follow many influencers, right? He talked about this, and I think that it's a really powerful way to start to see, number one, what compounding is, but secondly, what just a little bit of effort can do. And he had mentioned going to a garage sale, and you take $5 and you buy $5 worth of crap, and then you sell it out on Facebook Marketplace over the next week. Now you've
Mhm.
got $25.
I know where
Well,
you're
then you
going.
take the 25. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, no, I'm sorry. I mean to interrupt. I said I've heard this before.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a guy that said he bought a house with a paperclip, and it's
That's
the
right. He
same
traded
concept.
up.
Yeah, but go
Yeah.
ahead with what you were saying. I'm sorry. $5 at a garage sale, sold it on Marketplace for $25, and
Next week you do it again, right? So
mhm,
the 25 becomes 100. The 100 becomes 400. The 400 becomes 1,000, because you want to allow for some diminishing returns. But
mhm,
literally in a month, you ran up from $5 to $1,000. Now you start your LLC, you put in that work, right? And you get you some signs, you go out, and even then, get some business cards. You can go completely bootstrapped with wholesaling, which is what I love about that business model. Is that you can go with bad credit, and you can make assignment money, and you can fix your credit. Just
mhm,
like I can go out there and I could sell some houses and I could fix my teeth. See, I went and got braces right after I started
mhm.
making some commission, because I was all gapped up, right? My wife
Uh,
said it was cute, but I didn't think so. So you can fix these things. You can fix your credit, and then you can reinvest back into your business.
mhm,
By doing that, yes, you're going to be a little bit more labor intensive starting out, but it works. Now,
mhm,
just to kind of illustrate the point, there was this garage sale that was going on. It was a couple years ago. We were still living in Bossier, and it was across the street. We saw a moving sale, and I told my wife, I said, "Hey, you remember that little story about Gary Vee? Why don't we just take $5 and see what we can go over there and buy, and then we'll do it. We'll post it up on Facebook, whoever the winner is, and the winner gets dinner wherever they want."
mhm.
And so we go over there, and my what was it? Catherine got it was like this little tea jar thing with a little spigot, right? So it was a little glass jar and everything, and you'd pour your tea in there and let it drip down.
Mhm.
Wait, I'm sorry, I bought that. She bought a damn smoker. They gave this girl, she talked them into giving them a full on electric smoker,
That was
and
probably worth something.
man, it was some bullshit. But anyway, so we turn around, and she goes and she sells it for, I want to say it was like $45.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh well, this sucks. But that jar that I got, I sold for 46. So she shouldn't have flexed.
Yeah.
She even sent me a little text, and she showed me the little $45. And I went, oh, okay. So I knew right then I had mine out for 50, and I sold it for 46 just to beat her by that dollar.
Mhm.
So the
Love
moral of the story, if Catherine's watching this, is celebrate too early.
I
Yeah.
love it.
I'll get in trouble for that later, but it's all right.
So you're going off of compounding. So if you don't have any money, this is the definition of blood, sweat, and tears and groundwork. Strap
Yeah.
your boots up and go hustle for it.
Yeah.
So find something in your house that you've been needing to get rid of, put it up on Marketplace, sell it for a profit, figure out what you can buy with that, if anything, that you can sell for, and just compounding up to that point to where you start networking, getting your foot in the door with certain things, and eventually working your way up. The 100 becomes 3, the 3 becomes 6, the 6 becomes 1,000, and going from there.
Yeah. And if you don't believe in it, just watch the doers do it.
Right.
Right.
I'm actually
So
thinking about trying it because I've seen that before. I've heard a guy that he did a TED talk. He bought a
yeah,
house with a paperclip,
yeah.
and he showed his progress all the way up until that. But now hearing it again, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna try that out and see how far down the line I can get. Just
Go
out of
out there and
curiosity.
it's really it's a fun date as well to go
Mhm.
out there. I mean, like even we've talked about it around here, going out and thrifting, even,
Mhm.
wake up, go hit McDonald's, or I don't know, somebody fit like you, maybe a lettuce wrap or something for breakfast. That's cool if that's your thing. But go out there and then go thrifting, grab some stuff, and then sell it online. Just kind of see what you
Mhm.
can do. And not only are you both having a little friendly competition, but also you bring in some money into the household.
Right.
And in this economy, trust me, that's not a bad thing to do.
Mhm. Absolutely. So I looked up, and this is kind of going back to finance. You said you started with $6,000, and we working in the markets and everything else like that. We tend to look at trends, look at numbers, look at what the market is doing, what the stock market is doing, and what it's a lot of like back end stuff. So 70%, I saw 70% of Americans don't have $5,000 in their savings account. They're one accident away from being out on the streets. 70% of Americans do not have $5,000 in their savings account.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying about the compounding and starting with $5 and everything else like that. Let's say that there's someone who is doing relatively decent, but like I said in the beginning of this video, the cost of living is high. Daycare is $500 a day. Groceries are high. All of these different things, and people are pulling on their pockets. If they're making a decent income, but they're not putting a whole lot away, so they have decent credit, what are some creative financing ways for someone who's looking to get into investing in real estate if everything lines up minus the income? Because I
Mhm.
know that there's hard money lenders, banks, and everything else like that, but I don't want to put anything in your head. But what would you recommend for someone in that position?
And so a lot of it is, even with DSCR, you're going to be looking for, they're going to be looking for reserves. All right. So
Hmm.
you're going to need some kind of reserves. Now, that also means that you can bring in a capital partner, right?
Hmm.
There's levels to this, man. Like, it's crazy. I'm in a group, and go ahead.
I know I was about to say, can you explain what a capital partner is?
Yeah, somebody with money. I mean,
There you go. Then
that's
look,
the
I don't want to say it, but I'm like capital partners, somebody that got the funds.
That's right. Somebody that's got the
Hmm.
money. And I've had that happen since I started doing private money lending. What and just to give you some context in this, back in 2021, what happened to real estate prices? They went up, right?
Hmm.
Our deal flow as investors kind of got choked out a little bit, so we wasn't seeing as many deals because now sellers are, just out here thinking like, well, I can ask whatever I want, and I'm going to get it.
Hmm.
And for the most part, they were right.
Hmm.
So whenever you have 2.7% interest rates, kind of stuff's going to happen.
Right.
So I'm out here and I'm just like, all right, this isn't cool because we've grown a lot of credit based on the equity that we have in our deals. And we can, I don't want to go too long into your live, but I can go into that a little
Go
bit
for
more later.
it.
Essentially, we'll buy a property and we're all in it for say $50,000. It rents for $1,000 to $1,200 a month. All right, that's a 2x multiple. So you've got different things: the 1% rule, rent multipliers, gross rent multipliers, cash on cash return, cap rates, all these different ways to analyze a property.
Hmm.
Google it, YouTube it, save yourself some time, save yourself some money from asking me.
Hmm.
So all that to say, I'm looking at it, and whenever this happens, we're typically appraising those properties $90,000 to $100,000, which means that the bank would give me 80% of that value because I
Hmm.
purchased cash and I refinance. That helps me whenever I negotiate well. That helps me from having to leave money in the deal. All right. So
Hmm.
if I go to a capital partner, a hard money lender, and secure $50,000 to do the purchase and remodel of this house, then I go to the bank and the bank gives me back my $50,000. I'll send that money back over here. But now I've got an asset, less the debt service, right? Worth $100,000. But the bank would have given me $80,000. But instead of taking it, I just wanted my 50. Because what did I mention earlier? I want cash flow. I want positive cash flow after my debt service and all the holdbacks. But I've still got $30,000 that I left on the table. Well, it's not wasted. All I do is I go to the bank and I say, hey, look, you just gave me a mortgage for $50,000. Why don't you just go ahead and take a second position on this and give me a line of credit for $30,000? And the bank says, yeah, okay, it's within tolerance. So yeah, we'll do that. The beauty of a line of credit is you only pay for the interest when you draw the money down. Whenever that balance is zero, you don't pay them anything for that. So now what we're going to do is we're going to extrapolate. We're going to take that one example and we're going to scale it. What happens whenever you've got $30,000 in equity times 10? Now you've got $300,000. Now you can pay. So fast forward, that's where we're at. We've got money to do things with, but we just didn't have the deals. So I started going out to other investors and I'm like, hey, you want to flip a house? You want to double close? You want to hide your profit on this deal from the end buyer who would normally just tell you, hey, look, you don't need to make $30,000. Just take it down to $5,000. Let me have that equity. Right. So I give them money for double close. And of course, I'm charging points and fees and everything. Like I tell people, it doesn't matter what I make when you make what you want. So that's where hard money lending kind of came into play. And over the past couple of years, man, it's really just taken off. So I actually had a loan request today for $144,000 on the flip. Funny thing is back in Shreveport, and it was a house that I sent to one of my investors today that we didn't get it under contract fast enough. Shit happened. But but that person came to me for the loan. So it's, it's like, all right, well, that's, I can dig it. But I would say go out there, get your hard money lined up, get a capital partner so that you can start acquiring these properties, but be diligent in how you finance them and how you exit or how you refinance. Make sure you negotiate well enough. You stay disciplined on the cash out. I know the temptation is going to be there. You're going to go out, you're going to see this equity spread, and you're going to say, sure would like to go on a cruise. Don't do that. Flip a house, stack some cash, then go on the cruise, right? Don't finance it through that. Some people, they'll sit there and argue and say, no, you're leaving so much on the table. Well, the pandemic showed a lot of investors were doing things poorly because they went upside down. The eviction moratorium wrecked a number of people. We were able to, thankfully, knock on wood, go through that relatively unscathed. So be risk aware, not risk adverse. So, anyway, I'll go on to the next part. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just saying like.
Okay. So based on what you were saying, for the people that are listening right now, you said that you got started, you didn't have the funds for it, but everything else looked good. You got you a hard money lender, a capital partner. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I didn't. The bank was my capital partner because right as we got started, and this is where it's better to be lucky than good. The bank was still lending on loan to value versus loan to cost, which is what they do these days. It was after our second acquisition that the banks changed the rules. And then they were like, hey, look, now you've got to bring 20% of whatever you do. So that's when the idea of, and again, after my mom passed away, I did inherit 20 acres back in my hometown that I used for a line of credit. So that was my capital partner. And, you go out there and you find that person that can actually be there for you to make these things happen. Here's the thing. You can get creative. You don't have to give them cash. You can give them equity splits. You can work out novations. You can get exit financing. There's all of these different tools that you can do once you know about it. So just to tie it down, education, really get out there and get a thirst for knowledge in this space.
For everybody listening right now. So I don't know if you can see the amount of people that we have in here, but it has been consistent around about 15. And nobody has asked a question just yet. But if you're staying here and been watching this entire time, I'm assuming that you're interested in what he's saying. So if you have any questions, I would advise you. Yeah, it ain't because of that, I promise.
Yeah, it might be a little bit.
If any of you guys have any questions, go ahead and leave them. My other question to you, Lee, you mentioned that someone came to you looking for what was it, $134,000?
144. Yeah.
144. So I'm assuming, you correct me if I'm wrong, that you will consider yourself a lender.
Oh yeah.
So if someone had a deal, if anybody's watching this, if they had a deal, they did the education, took the education, ran the numbers on the property, figured out how much it was worth, what they could get, blase, this, then the third, would someone be able to reach out to you with a good deal, or would you be looking more so at their credit history, their financing? Are you one of those lenders where if the deal works and it makes sense and they show you the numbers, you're perfectly fine with it? Or are you one of those guys where the deal works, but I don't know about the person a whole lot?
Yeah. So I am known as an asset-based lender. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that I'm looking at the deal. Now, you come to me and you tell me, hey, look, I've got this, but yeah, I don't have another dollar. I'm going to tell you, look, you're going to need some reserves. Show me that you can at least scratch together a couple thousand. But
Mm-hmm.
I've also had people that can show me the reserves that just simply don't want to do it. I just closed on a loan last week. The guy showed me a proof of funds. He's got $300,000, but he wants to use other people's money. He's a huge believer in leverage.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, he told me that he's expecting a pretty big stock play coming up, so he wanted to stay liquid. It's fine with me. I'm still going to charge, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I've done 100% financing. That was a 100% loan. He was buying a property at $60,000 that, as it stood, if he defaulted day one, was worth $110,000.
There's one
So
that's
I've got, yeah. So I've got nothing but upside if he defaults. All right. So am I willing to lend 60 against 110? Yes,
absolutely.
I am. You know, so you make sure that you negotiate the deal well enough. Again, you have to control the terms or the price of a deal. If you can do either one, you can make a deal happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you have to have control of one of those things. Now, whenever you come to me with that, I do expect you to know your stuff, not just come to me with an address and say, look, I got this. It's shiny.
Right. It's
I don't give a
cheap.
shit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've got a form. You're going to go, you're going to give me some information. I tell you that I would love for you to have it under contract when you bring it to me. And I said that just for the case like I had today, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that came to me asking for money on this deal that I've already sent to one of my investors and I negotiated and I picked it up from my investor, that guy might feel some type of way about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most people would, even though I come from integrity whenever I do something, which is why I tell you, go out there, have it under contract before you share it with anybody, because I'm telling you, there are people out there that can't wait to snake you on something.
Absolutely.
Right? So just get out there, protect yourself every corner, every aspect that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that nobody's invulnerable. You know, there's always blind spots, right? But make sure that you minimize those blind spots. And all that to wrap it up, yes, I do asset-based lending. I'm not really concerned about your credit score. I will do a soft pull, which means that I'm looking for, did you go and have 15 different foreclosures? And if that's the case, well, we're going to have to talk about some security.
Right.
But for other people, yeah, I do 100% financing. It stands on the strength of the deal.
Okay. Well, I got two other questions. The last one isn't necessarily anything that's going to take any brain power. So for the people that are watching right now, we've been on for about right at an hour and getting ready to wrap it up. We kind of hit on this a little bit already in the beginning and throughout the video. For the people that are watching that might have cold feet, they have all of the means. We talked about people who didn't have the credit, had the money, not the credit. We talked about all of those different situations. But for the people who are absolutely in a position right now, they do have the funds. It's not going to drain their bank account. Their credit score is good. As far as taking that next step, someone who has cold feet right now, what would you say or recommend to them? They have all of the means. They just have, because I remember the first investment I bought.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I forgot my feet were there. You know what I'm saying? I forgot they were there. I was like, man, this is a lot of money. I never had to come out of pocket this much. Like, I know everything is good, but just talking to a lot of people who've done it already, made the decision. And after that, it's like, it's not even a problem anymore. If the deal works, it works. If it doesn't, whatever. So what would you say to that person?
So, and this is, again, different school of thought, right? I wouldn't say anything. I would tell them that You can go out here and you can listen to this. You can watch all the motivational videos on YouTube, Insta, TikTok. It won't matter to you
Mm-hmm.
because you're dead set. You won't do anything until you have a catalyst in your life that pushes
Right.
you, right? For me, it was the loss of my father at the age of 27. He was 54. And then 7 years later, my mom passed away at the age of 54. And
Mm-hmm.
it threw me into an existential crisis. Not gonna lie. Sitting here
Mm-hmm.
like, oh Jesus, what if I just come from short lifespan stock? What if this is the case? And I hope that I live a very long, healthy, happy life. Uh, but if I didn't, what would that do to my wife, to my family? You
Mm-hmm.
know, so that really kind of pushed me into starting to think bigger, long term. Because prior to my wife, I didn't even have a 401k. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was almost 30 years old, didn't have a dollar saved. I was that 70% of America, right?
Mm-hmm.
That didn't have the 5,000. I was one financial crisis away from, just everything being tanked. I was on payday loans for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, if you know anything about interest rates,
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
so. But all that to say, that catalyst shifted. And then another catalyst happened later on. That's what pushed me to wanting more. And then once I was enjoying a small modicum of success, then I had this employer that he was fantastic, man. I just knew I was going to ride this to retirement. And then I was going to have a portfolio of homes that were going to help seed the retirement. I was going to be great. He decided he was going to go back out into the field and sell, go into sales. Then they brought in this Ivy League prick that, he was like Steve Jobs without the talent. And,
Mm-hmm.
if you ever see it, John, what's up? But that being said, he actually was my catalyst for despising what I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, all right, no, we got to do this. And that's when I pushed and got my real estate license. And that's whenever I pushed so hard and I overcorrected, right? Working 18-hour days and kind of
Mm-hmm.
neglecting my wife, and that damaged the relationship. I don't encourage that. But I
Mm-hmm.
would say that you're going to have to find that catalyst for you, or identify what is it in your life that's missing that's preventing you from taking that step.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that was a very good point you just brought up, that you wouldn't say anything. And I've had those catalysts in my life before, and all of those things that kind of led me to the position I'm in right now. But something that you said made me think of something. My grandmother passed away, but I cannot remember what the reason for her telling me this story was. But she told me this story about, and it was obviously one of those. It wasn't a real story, but there was meaning behind it. She said that there was this guy that was walking down the street, and he would walk past this house. It was a guy sitting on the porch next to his dog, and every time he would walk past the house, the dog was just barking and yelping in pain. And the guy was just sitting there, and the dog looked like it was clearly in pain. So the guy walking back and forth a few days, and every single day walk past the house, the dog is just yelping in pain. And the guy's just sitting there ignoring the dog, not saying anything to it, not doing anything. And one day the guy stopped at the house and said, "Hey man, what's wrong with your dog? He's been yelling and in pain for a while now." And the old man was like, "Well, he's actually sitting on a nail right now, but when it hurts bad enough, he'll get up and move." So what you just said is how I look at a lot of things. Like, you can sit and complain about your financial situation, you can complain about your marriage, you can complain about whatever is going on in your life, but just know that there's some action that's going to be needed. You can do all of the praying in the world, and I'm not sure what you believe in and everything else, but you can pray, you can vent, you can talk to whoever you need to talk to, and nothing is going to happen until you take action. So that is a very, very good point. I wouldn't say anything to that person, because when it hurts bad enough,
Don't
they will
move.
make a move.
Man, you tie that up with a nice, pretty little bow, put a ribbon on it. That was
Oh
that
man,
was
I
good,
appreciate
man.
that. I
And
appreciate that.
because that gave me the realization that, just like I told you earlier, 338 pounds,
Right.
diagnosed type 2 diabetic. That
Mm-hmm.
was the nail, right? That said, hey, look, that hurts bad enough. I had to move. So
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, over the years, I've reversed it. I'm not even on my medications anymore. Everything's
I
been
love it.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
For like 4 months last year, I was unable to walk unassisted, like with moderate degenerative osteoarthritis in my right
Oh
knee and my right
wow.
leg. Right? And later on in the year, I was like, no, I can't do this. So now we're looking at stem cell treatment, going out of the country for it, to get all that done. And that's going to be about $25,000-$30,000. But when it hurts bad enough, you'll move.
You will
Right.
move.
And I'm telling you, and that's another thing that I want to share with your audience. Going out and making money, it isn't about buying nice things. If you can look at me, you probably tell I'm not too shy to hit the clearance rack at Burlington, right?
Lee,
And I ain't too proud.
I don't want to stop your train of thought. If you watch any of these videos, I'm wearing this in almost every live I'm in. This is a hang shirt I got off Amazon. Like you make pretty decent. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
Sometimes it ain't about the money that you're making, but go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but that is very true.
Hey, look, my wife, she bought her an LV bag one night, and just because she wanted to treat herself, and she had closed on a flip that she did, and God love her for it, and if she wants an Hermes bag, then I'm going to show her, and I'm going to help her, and I'm going to do what I can to get it for her.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't check the values for her, and that's okay.
Right.
We have grown to where we enjoy experiences. We want to travel, we want to do cruises, but also to be able to reinvest back into our health, right? Because there are some amazing technologies coming out there that can help. But I tell you one thing, they don't just offer it to the general public for free. So, you're going to have to go, you're going to have to get your money up, you're going to have to do something. And not only just to protect yourself from the economy, but also further insulate yourself from financial disaster down the road. And to me, that's why I work so hard while I have the good health and while I have this, because, God willing, like I said, I have a long, healthy, happy life ahead of me. Should something happen, though, I want to make sure that the people that matter to me are taken care of.
Absolutely.
And, that was my catalyst. I don't know what yours is, so I wish you the best with whatever that is. But find it. Yeah.
Absolutely. My catalyst happened. My catalyst, I know what it was that led me here. It was like, not to get deep into it, but from the military, kind of like you were saying, someone pissing you off and everything else, and deployments, and you having all of these different issues and everything else. The military, there are certain parts in the military where you're almost at that point to where there are people in the military that qualify for food stamps.
Yeah.
Serving the country, qualifying for food stamps. So they're not paying you a whole lot. So it just, I'm doing everything. I'm doing personal training. I'm selling clothes, trying to do social media, and trying to find all of these little ins and outs on how to make money. And it was taking a lot of my time, because when you gain the money, most people, the way that their mind works is, if I make more money, I'm going to lose time. So it's like, hey, you got a lot of time, a little bit of money, a lot of money, a little bit of time. And that's where I was at. I was just constantly burnt out. And my girlfriend, then my wife now, she would always tell me, you're burning yourself too thin. And I'll be with her. I'm not present. I'm up talking to people in different countries, before I knew what virtual assistants were, like doing all this other stuff, staying up late. And it was causing a lot of problems. So I'm like, man, read a book, oil, real estate, stocks. That's what my mind was. I don't know anything about stocks. I don't know anything about oil. I think I missed that train. But as far as real estate goes, I think I can figure that out. So that is when you actually came into the picture, because I was looking around for people. You don't know what you don't know, so anyone can screw you over. They want money, but you don't know what you're paying for, and they know that. So I'm looking around and everything else. And one of the people, do you remember Ashley Carpenter?
Yeah.
This isn't a knock at her or anything like that or whatever, but she was one of the people that reached out to me. She actually sold me my first house, and I was trying to learn from her because I knew that she was doing it, but she was like, "Oh, get your license, come work with me. I'll tell you." I'm like, I'm not trying to do that. So I somehow can't even remember how you and I got in contact with each other, but you remember coming to the house, pick me up in the truck, and we went into that abandoned building. We started driving around, looking at everything. I'm like, okay, I don't know what you see in all of this, but it must be something here. So just learning what I needed to learn there. Got my license, learned the contract, learned the conversations and everything else like that. And again, working 18-hour days, ran into the exact same problem. Like, I'm putting everything I got into this basket right here. So my catalyst kind of came from just constantly sitting on that nail. But every time I would move, different nail, but I was moving closer towards the goal.
So can I drop a little something with you that I heard last week? New level, new devil.
New level, new devil.
Every level you at, and people think that once I do this, then it's smooth sailing.
Oh no, absolutely not.
No, and that's where I feel like the practice of stoicism, going back to beliefs and philosophies, I love Jesus and I cuss a little is the best way that I explain to
Oh,
people like
absolutely.
my faith system, right?
I will
Uh,
still give you these, but I love it.
exactly. Yeah, I'll pray for you while I'm whipping your ass. Um,
Absolutely.
well, used to. I ain't got the hands that I used to have. But all that to say, new level, new devil, just really,
Hmm.
and stoicism helped me to realize and just kind of take peace in. It doesn't matter where we're at. We are going to experience struggle in life,
Right.
and that's all right. By knowing it, you're already halfway prepared for it.
Hmm.
But I can tell you one thing: it's easier to cry and throw a pity party in a convertible than it is on a bicycle. So
Absolutely.
I'll take and I'll fight those devils every day, um,
Hmm.
because I've been on both sides. Right, I
Hmm.
was hopelessly broke and very, let's just say, comfortable is the best way to put it. And I'll take comfortable. So
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you for sharing all of that. And look,
yeah,
as far as philosophies go, we're on the exact same page. So I know I told you I had two questions left, but I do have one other thing for you. What are your thoughts
yeah.
on the stock market? Because usually it's kind of like black, white,
Man, why
Christian,
you gotta ask
atheist.
me that?
No,
Yeah,
I have to ask you. You don't have to go too deep into it, but
yeah.
usually when people talk about stocks, they're like completely against real estate. And when someone is talking about real estate, they're completely against stock. So what are your thoughts on the stock market
Well, I
as
might be the
far as
only hybrid
investing
answer
goes?
you get then. So
Okay.
the way that I feel about it is the government tells me I owe so much a year in taxes. And one of the shelters that I have is called a SEP, self-employment plan, right? To where I can fund a good portion of what I owe in taxes into a retirement account. And my Wells Fargo advisor, shout out to Nick Rath, how you doing? He takes my contribution every year and he puts it out into the market at work for me. Prior to having those kind of taxable events, I really didn't play with it much because again, we built from 6,000 to where we're at, and I had to explain that to a financial advisor one time. Whenever he's like, "You need to come over here, you need to invest in this, you need to do that," I'm like, "Yeah, how do you do that with nothing? Because
Right.
I do this with nothing over here.
Hmm.
So you show me how to do that with nothing, and I'll double down. I'll do both."
Hmm.
But you kind of got to have money, to play in the
Right.
stock market. So I wouldn't say that, for wealth building, I think that as average growth goes, yeah, absolutely. And so long as you're not, about to retire and you're trying to jump everything and catch up and hope
Hmm.
that the market doesn't, face a correction of 20%, you're all right. But one thing that I know is even in this rental market, a 20% hit on the value of my portfolio, guess what? My rents are still the same.
Yeah.
I'll take it because I'm a cash flow investor. So, but again, different strokes, different folks. So, do what you feel is best for you. I'm just going to do what I feel is best for me.
So it's a tool, and if you don't know how to use it, don't use it. If you do, play it like that's pretty much how you look. You're not completely against it, but if you
Yeah,
know how to make it work, go for it.
I had the choice of giving my Wells Fargo guy 30,000 last year or giving the government 25. I gave Wells Fargo 30.
Hmm.
You know,
Because at least
so
it was
I would rather have more, and then now that's mine to grow. So
right.
that's you know,
All right, cool, man. Well, we're at 14 people right now. So if any of
yeah.
you guys have any questions, I advise you guys now because we're getting ready to wrap it up. Leave me a comment if you have any questions that you want to ask Lee before we go. Lee, how can you be reached?
I would say the best way to reach me is go to my website. It's rewithlee.com. So I tried to make it simple so that I could remember it, but it's re like real estate with lee.com. And
Right here.
yep, there you go. I appreciate you putting
Mhm.
that up for me.
You got any?
There's a copy of my book that I wrote last year on there. It's free to download. Just get it, or you can go to Amazon if you want paper and you can pay for it. That's fine, but it's right there. It's free.
Man, we need to
Uh,
do some more marketing on it, man. I did not know you wrote a book last year.
Oh yeah. Well, and I mean it's just a little primer, right? So it talks about how we got started and essentially a recap of this, but it also
Okay.
teaches wholesale, rentals, flip strategy. I will also say just a cool little caveat or cool little note about that. the house that's on the front of that book was the first house I rented back in like, oh goodness, it was 2002,
Mm.
2003. That was the first house I rented whenever I moved to Shreveport. Last year, I added it to my rental portfolio.
Oh wow.
$35,000. Yeah,
So you got the first house you rented and the house that you bought, the same house on the back. Two different
that's right. Yeah,
timelines. I love it.
yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
You
Talk
got
about
any?
manifest.
Yes. What they say about those tables? But no, they be turning. You
Yeah,
got
that's
any
right.
socials or anything for people to reach you, or you want to just stick
Yeah.
with the?
No, no, you can go there. It'll direct you. I've got
Okay.
so Facebook is where I put out most of my stuff. It's just like goofy memes, and I try to have fun with it,
Hmm.
and I put out some content there. Same for Insta. TikTok is mostly real estate memes.
Hmm.
So don't take it too seriously because I've learned over the years that hell, we ain't getting out of this alive. You might as well have some fun with it, right? And
Absolutely.
if real estate is so consuming in my life, I'm going to have fun with it. So I would say just connect with me on there. But if you want to talk shop, talk business, go to my website, put in a contact form. I'll get in touch
Okay. So website for contacts, forms, consulting, and everything else like that, and they can also reach you on socials as well through your website.
with you. Yeah, yeah, it's all
Okay.
right there on the bottom. It's on the footer.
Okay, cool, man. Sounds good. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add or kind of
And
throw in there for the people?
yeah, so I just hope that your audience found some value in the rambling, that I put out
Hmm.
tonight. And I appreciate you having me on. It's about a quarter till 10 my time, so I'm going to get ready and probably go to bed because I'm driving a float tomorrow in a St. Patrick's Day parade. So
Sounds
yeah,
good, man. Sounds good. Well,
always
Lee,
something to do, right?
absolutely. Tell the wife I said hello, the family I said hello, man. And I really, really, really do appreciate you for spending this free hour with us. As people do, they believe in free speech and like, come give one if you do. So, so man, I really do appreciate your time, man. It is definitely valuable. For anyone watching right now, go check out the website. Go check out his links. And if anyone has any questions, you can leave me a comment on the YouTube video if you're watching this a little bit afterwards. But outside of that, Lee, man, I appreciate you. I wish you well, my brother. Take care, keep in touch, and I would definitely go check that book out.
All right.
All
Take
right,
care.
man. Yes, sir. You too. Have a good one.
Bye.